Welcome to the garage. Today I'm going to be working on this Cannondale Delta V. I picked this up a little while back and it's a great Cannondale frame. Has a functioning head shock that's actually in really great shape. And so I'm going to go ahead and build this bike and fix it up. Before I do, it looks like the previous owner, someone along the way, has added their own decals to it. And there's a spot here where, focus, there's a spot here where a decal's been removed and now there's this nasty residue. So I'm going to go ahead and get the bike all cleaned up. I have my heat gun to help remove decals, and I also have this product called Goof Off that's supposed to remove the adhesive. So I'm not sure how good it does on paint, and so I wanted to test it. So I removed the derailleur hanger here so I could test it on the paint in an area that won't be seen if it does any damage. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a try first. Okay, so give this a try. You know, it does appear to take a little bit of the paint off. Let me try another clean spot on this paper and see. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. That is a little bit of green paint. So I would not advise using Goof Off on bike paint. I'll have to just try it with the heat gun and some alcohol. Okay, so we're gonna try and get this one off with a heat gun here. Hopefully that softens it up enough. Okay, and it looks like that sticker was on there to hide a little scratch in the paint, so should be interesting to see what else I find. I went ahead and took the rest of the decals off camera, and fortunately there aren't any more paint chips that were being hidden by stickers. This is the only one here. And, you know, at some future date I might take a little touch-up paint and fill it in. There's another paint chip here on the fork. So the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and put a wheel set on it. And I've found this old wheel set. These are old Pirelli Dior XT hubs. I don't know if you can see that in there. M738 hubs, and the rims are a little bit mismatched, but it's the same hubs, and I have WTB Velociraptor tires for it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on now. Okay, and now we have something that's already starting to look like a bike. This frame came with this Shimano LX crank set on it, and it's in really good shape. I kind of like this crank set, so I'm going to keep it, but everything else I have for brakes and for drivetrain is this kind of older style XT group set now. So I'm going to go ahead and start by doing the drivetrain on this. But you can actually damage these frames by over tightening. And that looks pretty good. So I'll come back and tighten that later. Now we'll go ahead and put on the rear derailleur as well. To put together this drivetrain, I need to install a cassette. So I have this 9-speed, I don't know if you can see in there, it's a Shimano M750 9-speed cassette. And these are nice, they're real lightweight. And in order to install that, you just have to line up the splines. There's one spline that's a little thinner than the others, so it only goes on one way. And where is it? So each of these have to go on the same. And then I have the lock ring here. And to tighten this on, you need a lock ring wrench. And I believe you're supposed to tighten this to about 40 Newton meters. You know, I've never done it with a torque wrench. I just kind of tighten it till it doesn't click, and I've never had an issue. That's probably wrong. Someone probably call me out on doing it that way, but that's how I do it. Now I'm going to install the chain. I've already figured out the length for the chain. There's plenty of tutorial videos on how to do that, so I'm not going to explain it here. But when you're threading it through the derailleur, there's a little piece of metal here that you need to loop through in order to feed this through the right way. So I did want to show that. And then in order to put the chain together, I have a piece of an old spoke that I cut and bent that helps me to keep things lined up. And then I prefer to use these missing links, and they do make them for different speeds. This is a 9-speed missing link. So you just put them through each of the open links, overlap them, and then pull, and it just snaps together. And you have a chain in place. So now I need to set up my handlebars so that I can adjust the derailleurs, and I do have this nice XT set of shifters and levers that matches the rest of the drivetrain. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on. Just like so. For grips, I found these old Cannondale grips. I don't know if I can focus in here, if you can see where it says Coda. Anyhow, these are in good shape, so I thought I'd go with them. The easiest way I know to get them on is to just put a little drip of some rubbing alcohol on, and that lubricates them. And then the alcohol just evaporates. They go on pretty simple. There's one. And here is the other. Okay. So now I just want to get these levers kind of approximately where they're going to go. I'll readjust everything once the shifters and levers are all kind of dialed in. So now I want to adjust this front derailleur, and so I'm just going to kind of shift, and we do go up, but it's not quite centered. And if I shift again, we go up again, but it's rubbing. So I do need to tighten. That cable a bit in order to make this work. Try this again. And that is a little bit better. There we go. So in order to tighten that cable some more, I can just come here and tighten a little bit. And we'll see how this does. So shift down, turn, and that's centered better than it was. Shift down again, pedal, and not quite enough. I might have to adjust that limiting screw. I messed with it a little bit off camera. It did end up being a limiting screw issue. So now I shift, middle, goes fine, outer chainring, fine, down one, and down one. So I can mess with it a little bit more and get it better, but that seems to work. The rear derailleur needed a little bit of playing with too. I went ahead and just did that off camera, but I had to adjust the limiting screws and adjust the tension. But it now appears that I'm hitting all the gears. And back down, and it's stuck just a little bit there. Okay, so that's down, and it's time to move on to the brakes. So for brakes, I dug out this set of XT brakes, and I was just looking over them. These are used brakes, and the brake pads are totally worn. I'm going to go ahead and set them up anyhow, but kind of the first thing on my to-do list is going to be to replace those brake pads. They're just beyond their useful life at this point. I went ahead and installed them, but I'm not too worried about tightening them down just yet. They work, but obviously I'm going to have to replace those brake pads. So I went ahead and just did the rear brake off camera. If you've ever seen a brake installed, you've seen a brake installed. So now the only thing left is to do the seat. And I do have a used seat post here, but I did end up buying a new seat. I'm going to have to pull this apart and clean it. But I'll go ahead and install a new seat, and then I basically have a complete bike. And I'll show you kind of some of the interesting features of this once I get everything tightened down. So the bike's all together now. I went ahead and cleaned up the last few things, but I wanted to show this cable routing. This is unusual. I've never seen this before. So there's this welded on kind of clip that routes the rear brake cable to the cable stop here, and this was kind of a pain to get lined up correctly. But it seems to be working just fine. The other interesting thing about this is with the head shock. So these, you know, we don't really see these too much anymore, but to adjust the head shock, you just unscrew this cap, and then you can take a 4mm Allen key, stick it in there, get it to engage, and if I turn it all the way around to the right, I can actually lock out the fork and ride this like a rigid. And I'm almost there. And then now it's rigid. And then if I turn it back the other way, it'll unlock the fork, and then it's a preload adjustment, so I can change how soft it is. So kind of a interesting little feature. From what I understand, you can get caps or just maybe modify this cap with the right length Allen key in there, and then you can just adjust it on the fly. So that's basically it. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.